Hello again. We're moving on with our sociology topics, and I'm going to clarify some issues that I mentioned in the previous lesson when I used the word macro and micro a whole lot. These are concepts that we're going to talk about every single time we meet together for class. And so let's talk about why. The very first course learning outcome, the first one of four learning outcomes that we have in this class, is for you to develop something called the sociological imagination. And that is the first learning outcome, but actually it's going to take us all semester to achieve that. The second, third, and fourth learning outcomes that we have in our class are they all give us tools in our toolkit so that we can build our sociological imagination. And technically, all of the course learning outcomes, not just course learning outcome number one, like I have highlighted at the top of the whiteboard behind me, but technically all four of our course learning outcomes are it is necessary to understand the difference between the big picture and the small picture, or macro sociology and micro sociology, in order to understand those topics thoroughly. And I emphasize macro compared to micro in this video because maybe not all of you are like this, but I would say 90% of the students I meet for the first time in my classes have never really stopped to consider how the larger structure of the world around us, whether it is the city that you live in, the state, the nation, the continent, the trade zone, whatever it is, most of my students, 90%, have never really stopped to consider how and why larger social structure affects our lives in just the daily circles that we travel in. If we go to work or school or church or back home, and who our friends are and all this kind of stuff, we're very, very focused typically, and this is not a criticism, this is simply an observation. We are very focused typically on the small scale human interaction side of what our life is like. And we don't really think about, if we go through the drive-through window of this of Chick-fil-A and take a chicken sandwich, where did that chicken come from, for instance? And what about the supply chain, and how much inflation has made that chicken breast go up in price, and that kind of stuff. So the you and me level is very central to our focus in daily life, as it should be. You want to know, do you have enough resources in your home, or do you need to gas up your car before you get to before you're going to be able to get to work? That kind of stuff is really the focus, and we don't think typically in a broader scale, the large picture, the societal level of structure that guides our behavior on a daily basis. So we have a structure in society. That word typically refers to like a physical thing, something tangible that you can touch. But in regards to society, the structure is concepts, okay? So for instance, the concept of marriage. In the United States, we have a concept of marriage where it is two people and two people only. The government is set up. The Social Security system is set up. Your insurance plan at your work is set up so that it will cover you and one spouse, so two people at a time, not you and four other spouses. There are some societies where the pattern of marriage that exists in the societal level that affects our personal level, there are some societies that pattern does allow for multiple spouses simultaneously, multiple over two, that is. But I'm using this marriage example to show you that on the society level, there are attitudes, there are ideas, there are feelings, there are even emotions that are considered or in place as quote unquote normal or expected. And therefore, a lot of times you and I don't even question whether something should be the way that it is. We just know that it is that way. Driving on the side of the road, the particular side of the road that we do, you know, we're on this side of the road or that side of the road when we're headed this way or that way. And when you go to the Bahamas or you go to the United Kingdom or a variety of other places throughout the world, that is reversed. And they don't even think about it. Because they grew up with that pattern. We don't even think about it because we grew up with that pattern, and we don't question that pattern because we grew up with that pattern. But if you travel to the Bahamas or you travel to the United Kingdom or you travel someplace where that pattern is the reverse of our pattern, you're going to get run over if you don't look the correct way when you cross that street. Right? So we even teach little kids, look this way and then look that way when you're crossing the street. You have to do that in the opposite direction. And so there are patterns that exist on the societal level. The crossing the street thing, the driving on the one side of the road or the other kind of thing might seem like a silly example. Maybe marriage was not a silly example to you because maybe you have other macro scale patterns like a religious belief that makes you think that that polygamy thing I was talking about is not right. Okay? And so maybe the religious belief that is dominant in a particular place affects our macro scale lives, whether you follow that particular religious belief or not. And so the macro side of society, the big picture side, this really, really, really affects the way that you and I act on a daily basis. What is the pattern for our human interaction? What are the ideas that pop into our heads even? Do you want to believe that you are responsible 100% for the ideas that are in your head? I would like to believe that too. However, when you and I were born into the society that you and I were born into, we inherited the social pattern that existed at the time of our birth. We experienced the history of our lives and all the messages that come from participating in society. We inherited those patterned ways of thinking. We even have a pattern way of feeling. We have a pattern way of acting that affect our behavior in our daily lives. And 90% of my students, if not more than 90% of my students, come to me on the first day of sociology class, and they have never thought about that fact before, that the society level controls, there's that word control again, at least has a significant impact on the daily behavior and attitudes and ideas and customs and rituals and point of view that you and I have on a daily basis. We didn't come up with all those thoughts on our own. We were guided toward them because of the society level. And the learning outcome number one that refers to the sociological imagination, which we'll cover in another video, is about the connections. I've got my weird what is this? An arrow. Sorry, I couldn't come up with that word. I've got this weird arrow from sociological imagination over here to the middle section between the big picture and the small picture, because the sociological imagination is about making the connections between that society level pattern that exists and the you and me daily life experiences that we live every day. Okay, so it's this connection. This is what we're working on this semester, and I find it super interesting. I hope you will too. And in another video, we're going to look deeper into a definition of sociological imagination. You can probably pick one up from my explanation right now that I've just given you. I don't have it written on the board, but you can rewind this video. Is rewind even a thing? I guess you don't use that word anymore, but you can back up this video and listen to me again where I said what the sociological imagination is: the ability to make connections between what's happening on the society level and what the daily life experiences are of the you and me level of daily life. Okay?